Preprocessor macros can be very useful, but there's also a real possibility of unintended results. One common cause of problems is parameters being evaluated more than once. Here I have a working copy of working.cpp from Chapter 3 of the exercise files. Let's take a look at an example of a macro that may not do what we intended. I'm going to start by defining a simple max macro, and it looks like this. If you saw the last lesson, then you've seen this before. This is a simple macro that will replace all of this with an expression that takes the greater of the two parameters. And I'm also going to define a simple function here. I'm going to call it increment. This is a very simple function that's just designed to illustrate a particular point. It declares a static variable and initializes it and then increments it. And so that each time this function is called, the variable will increment. First time it'll return 47, and then it'll return 52, and like that, because the variable is static. And this is just to illustrate a particular point. Now I'll define a variable, and we'll call it x, and we'll give it a value of 50. And now I'll put in a couple of printfs, and we'll call the macro. And we'll just do exactly the same thing a couple of times here. Now, let's see if we can predict what happens, because this is the problem with parameterized macros. The first time I come in here and call it, we have an x of 50, and increment will go through its first time, and it will return 47. And so we're calling max of x and 47, right? Well, no, because this time it will be 52, right? Well, not exactly, because 52 is greater than 50, and so this will actually get evaluated twice, and it'll return 57. And then the next time through, we'll be comparing it with 62, and then it will return 72. And so I'm trying to predict this in my head. We'll see what actually happens. It's actually really hard to do because this expression that calls this function is getting evaluated more times than it appears. And so when I build and run, you see it gets called 3 times before we ever get a value. The first time is here, and the second time is here, and the third time is also here because it's getting evaluated twice. And so its returning value max of 50 and 47 is 57, which makes no sense on the face of it. And likewise here we get 72. So parameterized macros are a powerful tool, but like many powerful tools, you need to be conscious of how they work. If you do need to use them, proceed with care. You'll need to be very conscious of how your macros are evaluated. For many uses, C++ templates will be a much better choice, and we'll cover templates later in this course.